Good evening, everybody. This is Corey with FantasySportFans.com. Yet again, I have my buddy Seth here. How you doing, Seth?
Oh, I'm just dandy.
But before your draft, Seth, I've got a question for you. How do you research your players? How do you figure out what players you are going to take in the draft?
Oh man, a lot of stuff goes into that. It's not just one thing; it's several. I'm looking at stats from previous at least 2 years. No more than 3, just really the last 2, because I want to see if there's consistency. I want to see if there's been any hiccups. I want to see if the person is injury prone. I want to see how many touchdowns they're getting, how many yards, they're throwing or receiving or rushing. If I'm looking at defense, I'm looking at, what's their average interceptions, tackles, sacks, so forth. I'm looking at all their stats, like, combined, and then I separate them. Another thing I'm looking at is the upcoming season. I'm looking at their schedule. I'm looking at what are the teams that they're going up against. I'm researching the teams from the previous years that had some of the worst rush defenses, who allowed the most passing yards, who allowed the most receiving yards, which helps me determine what players I need to draft, because I want to know who they're going up against, and those teams that allowed all of that is what's going to help me choose those players.
Okay, so if you're looking at statistics, are you looking more for touchdowns? Are you looking more for yards, Are you looking for receptions? What's one of the main stats that you are looking for?
Well, it depends on, what position I'm looking at. So if I'm looking at, say, running back, I want a running back who is flexible, though. I don't want a running back who is just a straight rusher, because there are running backs out there who can rush the ball, they can't catch the ball, which takes away... it doesn't take away points from you, but however, you could have had more points.
Right. There's those few running backs that can run and catch the ball outstandingly.
Exactly. Like, we'll say another player, Marshawn Lynch. The guy can rush the ball like an animal, but he rarely ever catches the ball. He's not a guy that catches a ball, 10, 15, 20 times a game.
Right.
He doesn't do that. You look at other players, they can do that, and they're very versatile, and those are players that you really want to look at and say, you know what, they can run it, they can catch it, they're getting touchdowns, because yardage racks up points, touchdowns racks up points. But then I'm looking also on the negative side. Who has more turnovers? In other words, who's fumbling the ball? If the ball's
and all that counts against your players, for sure.
It does count against your players. If a running back is, say, going out for a catch, is he a good route runner? Because if he's not a good route runner, then guess what? The ball's going to get intercepted. The ball's never going to get to you. And say that ball does get to you, but that ball is not someone who can handle the ball very well after a catch. Well, guess what? You're going to end up fumbling the ball. And that's what you don't want in a player.
Right. So mainly you're looking at consistency over the last couple of years. You're looking to make sure that the player isn't injury prone. You don't want to draft a player high that gets injured consistently every single year. You can't afford to spend a high draft pick on somebody who's only going to play half the year.
Exactly. And if you're looking at, say, quarterbacks, look at who got sacked the most last year.
All those negative yards counts. Exactly.
And people don't really think of stuff like that, because they're like, it was just a sack. That don't really affect me a whole lot. It was only minus 0.02. Because he only lost 2 yards. Well, guess what? He gets sacks 4 or 5 times a game. That could add up to a lot of points.
And you can still lose by 0.02.
You definitely can. It happens all the time.
It does happen all the time.
But when I'm looking at quarterbacks, I'm looking at, how often are they completing passes? Because if you're looking at a league that, say, you get a point for every pass that is completed, or half a point, guess what? That adds up.
Right.
I want to look at, who led the league in passing yards. Last year, I believe it was Drew Brees, if I'm not mistaken.
By a huge amount.
There you go. Drew Brees, and guess what? It added up points. He led fantasy points last year as a quarterback, because guess what? He knows how to throw the ball. He has a high completion percentage, and the guy throws touchdowns.
He
is
also
a throwing
led the
touchdown.
league in interceptions too. Just to point that out there, he had more interceptions than
There
anybody.
you go. There you go. And interceptions do affect you, which is why if your quarterback is going to throw quite a bit of interceptions, you want to make sure that they're at least getting the touchdowns and the yards to make up for it. But if you can find another quarterback that has a lesser interception throwing percentage and has a higher yardage percentage, obviously that's the better quarterback.
All right. Thank you, Seth.
All right. Thank you.